trust, you don't believe, you easily forget. And that's what we are saying. But going all the way back, remember, I was told that Kwame Nkrumah was kicked out of government because people thought there was no milk and sardines. People were shot because, they are taking monies. So at every time in our history, we have complained about one thing or the other. But on Sunday, in the president's speech at the church, he asked again that, you guys forget too quickly. Once upon a time, there wasn't any lights. I've sorted the lights, and then we move on to market fires. There's no market fires. So it looks as if we jump from one complaint to the other. But is it our nature as a people? Are we justified to complain? Are we complaining too much? Because indeed, if you look across the globe, there are some people who are going through some really dire straits, and indeed, we are much, much better than them. Should we set our yardstick with G7 countries and say that's the yardstick and that's who we have to become? Or we look along countries who we think, well, this is our co-equal, so that's who we have to become? I don't know. When I come back from the break, I will introduce my guest. It's an open conversation. Log on to Facebook and join the conversation. My name is Ghanaians Cynical, and this is PM Express. Well, good evening and welcome to our conversation, if I may say, because that's all it's going to be. It's going to be a conversation around a bar table, and we're just trying to find out if indeed as a people we are cynical. If we are we justified? If we're not, should we be cynical? Who knows? From my extreme left is Dr. Jinapo. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you.
And then to my immediate left is Dr. Echi Sikanko. So, Doctor, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And now, Dr. Jinapo, I'll start with you. I mean, as Ghanaians, are we cynical?
Well, I think, first of all, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an honor to be on this program because this program, is very big.
Thank you.
But first of all, before I deal with the issue of whether we are cynical or not, I think it's very important for us to try and interrogate what constitutes cynicism. And you can look at all kinds of definitions or descriptions attributed to cynicism. There's one fundamental, underlining theme surrounding cynicism. That is, to a reasonable extent, people who are a little bit pessimistic, people who are a little bit doubtful, and people who have lost hope and are not sure as to what happens in terms of what is being propagated. And Nana, you agree with me that the opposite of cynicism or pessimism is optimism. Mm-hmm. So if you ask me the question as to whether Ghanaians are cynical, I think I will not be able to give a straightforward answer. But the reality on the ground is that, Nana, you agree with me. When you look at humanity, civilization, there's always been two opposing, what do they call it, perspectives when it comes to the forward march of a group of people, be it civilization, religion, or whatever it is. Let's talk about Christianity. Mm-hmm. Christianity, for instance, when Jesus Christ came into being, he was preaching the gospel of hope, the gospel of and forget the gospel of being your brother's keeper. As a Christian, that is my understanding of the fundamental principle
love your neighbor as
of
yourself.
Christianity. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. For some of them who were deemed the Pharisees, they thought this kind of preaching was utopian in the sense that there was nothing in this world that could be construed as forgiving your neighbor and loving your neighbor as you love yourself, especially when you look at the Old Testament, when we're being told that if an eye for what? An eye. So that in itself was in tune with the thinking of humanity as at that time. But this man was able to propagate the gospel, hoping that and being conscious of the fact that it was going to work. That is what we call optimism. Yeah. Not too long ago, today we are celebrating the life of Nelson Mandela.
Sure.
Nobody in this world, prior to the coming out of prison of Mandela, could ever think that today we'll be celebrating this great leader and this great nation without reasonable doubt. When you look at the African continent, South Africa is a propelling force when it comes to what? Socioeconomic development. Nobody could ever think that today South Africa will be where it is, especially if you look at what went on. The brutalities, the apartheid, the humiliation, and all these kind of things. But Mandela believed that there was hope. You understand? Obama came onto the political or the platform talking about what? Yes, we can. If you read the lines of Obama once said that, look, those who are cynical, those who are pessimists, and those who do not think that we can do it, yes, we can. So in a nutshell, just a brief intro. The reality on the ground is that people, all, no matter what background that we come from, people believe in hope. But definitely there are some who will always be what? I will not use cynical, but pessimistic. But of course, people become pessimistic based on what is happening. If you tell me you are going to give me what? Heaven. And you are not able to give me bread and butter, how do you give me heaven? Do you understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when we want to go into the nitty-gritties of contextualizing the president's statement within the socio-economic and political framework of what is happening within contemporary Ghanaian development, then we'll be able to interrogate it very well. But at the end of the day, no matter where you find yourself, there are some who will definitely be cynical. But cynicism is, to a reasonable extent, is good because it's mostly based on reason. Do you understand what I'm saying? If a TV station like Joy News, you look at how you are developing within the last 2, 3, 5 years, and you say you want to be like what? CNN within the next 5 years, some people will be cynical. They will say you can't. You understand what I'm saying? But if you are doing well and you, based on your projections, you say, look, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be able to beat GTV. Somebody may say, look, it's possible. So when we posit what the president said within contemporary Ghanaian political development, I think that issue can be interrogated. As to whether Ghanaians can be branded as cynical or not, that is a different question that needs to be addressed.
Let me break Dr. Sikanko in here.
Right. Well, taking off from where Dr. Jinapor left, he mentioned Obama. That name evokes a lot of, feelings in me in terms of what he did with his presidency, his campaign, and all that. Going back to the perspective he just gave about two schools of thought, there being optimism, which is the opposite of cynicism, and the schools of thought or the trajectories within which societies are organized, and that people like Mandela represented a more positive aspect of it. And so there's Mandela, there's Obama. I remember, I just got a flashback, in January 2008, where Obama won the Iowa caucuses, which was the first ever caucus that was held in the, and people were cynical. How can a black man,
especially in Iowa.
Especially, which is 95% white, studied over there, and so very hard to win, but he won. And that even the black people were skeptical, and that legitimized him as a candidate, and then people rallied. What did he say? He said, the first thing he said, today we've done what the cynics said we couldn't do. Today, they said this country was too divided to come together. This country was too polarized to come around a common cause. But on this January 9th, on this cold night, we have proved the cynics wrong. Okay, so it is a general theme that runs through governance all over the country, and he faced it. And so when the president says that we shouldn't be cynical, It is, I mean, you can put it in different perspectives. First of all, Doc was trying to talk about cynicism, right? So he talked about disaffection, loss of trust, loss of hope in the system, and so on and so forth. Okay, so basically, it is a statement of disaffection that the citizens try to register towards the government. And so it is their statement of disaffection towards the government, first of all. Also, it is that negative feeling and the propensity for people to lose faith and to lose hope in the government. So there's a certain level of distrust within the government. And so if the president comes out and says that we shouldn't be cynical, then it means that there is that feeling within the government that people are losing hope and losing trust in him. So the first thing that you want to ask is, first of all, why are people, is it legitimate? And are people really, and why are people losing that hope? And why should we believe him when he says that we shouldn't be cynical? Okay, so I think that there is every reason all over the world, where people are concerned whether politicians or professional politicians or people who man our country come in to use it as a means to their own ends or for their own self-interest, that the things that they promise, are they really fulfilling it? When you talk about cynicism, it's basically the citizen looking at what they were promised during the campaign season. They look at the performance of the government, they look at the functions of the institution, and they look at the behavior of those who govern the country, and they ask themselves, is their performance and is what they are delivering, does it match the productivity or what we expect of them? If the answer is no, then it evokes that sense of cynicism. And I believe that is what the presidency is feeling at this point in time.
I'll take a break here, and then when I come back, I want to find out your cynical level, if it's measured, let's say 1 to 10. Too often what we find out is whichever government is in power, you find out their followers seem to be more optimistic than those who are in opposition. Stay tuned, find out why. Well, hello and welcome back to The Conversation, PM Express. I introduce again my guest. To my far left is Dr. Ahmed Jinapor, who's a lecturer, University of Education in Winneba. And then to my immediate left, Dr. Godwin Echi Sikanko, lecturer, School of Communication Studies in University of Ghana. Now, the question is, are you cynical as a Ghanaian? Both of us, are we cynical? And just before we wanted to break, I was wondering that there's a trend, and I'll start again with Dr. Jinapor. Doc, if I were to go out and ask any hardcore NDC member today, they seem to have more hope than the usual MPP, member would have. And if I roll you back maybe 5-6 years and Kufuor wasn't president, the opposite would be true. So in our case, we seem to be cynical depending on where we are and who is ruling. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
I think you are right, Nana, because if the reverse was the case, and MPP being in power, definitely you agree with me that the NDC would have been bastardizing and lambasting the NDC. I don't know how to put it, but the reverse. Yeah. But you see, I think we should probably get into where we are as a nation as we speak. Number one, by next year, I think last year this time we elected a new president. Today is somewhere, December 16th. We went to the polls on December 7th and 8th. By now we had elected a new president. I think a couple of weeks from now, the president should have been sworn in. So, to a reasonable extent, we can say we are probably a year. And if you look at a year of the NDC President Mahama leadership, I speak as an independent-minded person. The reality on the ground is that we've had some challenges. There's no doubt about it. Nana, you know very well that we've had fuel increases and decreases, but if you do a juxtaposition of the increment vis-a-vis the decrement, the increment is a little bit on the high end. Beyond that, we've had tariff increases in terms of what? Utilities, electricity and water, which as a matter of fact, even one way or the other, probably would have led to what? A universal what? Strike by workers. So it's national strikes here and there, and even with reference to the specific statement that was made by the president at that church, he made reference to the fact that we've had power outages, we've had fires, we had strikes and stuff like that. So overall, we've had challenges, and I think the president has acknowledged to that. There's no doubt about it. And even you can even talk about the Supreme Court verdict and all those kind of things. So we've had a number of challenges, and those challenges, one way or the other, is enough for the ordinary Ghanaian to be cynical, for the ordinary Ghanaian to be pessimistic, for the ordinary Ghanaian, excuse me to say, to be deemed as a doubting what? Thomas. So my argument is that, and I've always said it, look, 2013, when you look at it within the spectrum of change of governance, especially in 2000, in 2008, and 2012, because 2012, it wasn't a sitting president, even though it was the same government. It's a little bit unique. It has its own characteristics. It has its own what? Its own unique features. And you and I and the ordinary Ghanaian who is watching us know. But at the end of the day, my interest is that even though the president, one way or the other, is calling on Ghanaians not to be pessimistic, right? He's asking on Ghanaians to be hopeful and to think of positive ends, which I agree with him, because look, I do not align myself to any political party. I align myself to Ghana. And I align myself to my stomach. And when I say my stomach, I align myself to my ability to what? To get a good income such that I'll be able to take care of my family. So if this country is moving forward, it inures to the benefit of me. No matter which political party is in power and who will gain the political benefits, my interest is that for the next 4 years, this country should be able to progress in a way that at the end of the day, within the next 4 years, I should be able to say that, look, I've been able to what? To progress well. But when the president talks about cynicism, which I do not, as a matter of an individual and as in principle and in philosophy, do not subscribe to, I think the president will also have to walk his talk.
Let me bring Dr. Sikanku. You see, those who see hope, is there something they see that the rest of us don't see? It's not as if, we live, it's impossible. But then, you need to see something, now we're moving in the right direction. Right. We're training more doctors, we're training more teachers, we're building more roads, we're building more hotels, so tourism is... you must see something to see the hope. So those who have hope, I don't know, where do they get the hope? No. If indeed we all live in a country. Right.
You're right, Nana. When you elect a government, based on their campaigns, based on certain expectations that you have. You expect that the government would be able to re-engineer society, would be able to transform society, or would be able to organize political, social, economic, and cultural life in a way that you would see a qualitative change in your life over a period of time. So yes, there is that expectation of the government that they have been elected. The petition has been over, of course. It was a little bit of a drawback, but that is over now. And people are genuinely looking for change in their lives. We really have to get serious and stop managing the decay in the country and make a sea change towards the way in which we run the country, the way in which things are organized in this country. It was based on that in Ghana, people look up to Obama. There are books, there are stores, everybody names everything after Obama, Hotel Obama, and so on and so forth, because of what he was able to achieve. Somebody whose dad came from Kenya, his mom came from Kansas, and was able to achieve. He won those elections based on a promise of re-engineering the way social life is organized in America. He moved them from a capitalistic, individualistic society and based his campaign on a communitarian system. And so the Americans were very surprised. This is not what they are used to, but he said, I'm my brother's keeper, I'm my sister's keeper. You tell me, Nana, in which society are these communitarian values more present than in African societies? And so I think that it is about time that we have a sea change in the way that we perceive our governance, in the way that things are done in this country. The times are different, things are changing all over the world. And it's important that we have activist thinking, we have people that do conceptual and practical ways in which we can have a paradigm shift in the way things are done in this country. And so we have to respond to the times instead of managing things as usual. So when you say some people see hope, well, I don't know. You started by saying that probably it's based on partisan. puritanic partisans, the purists who would support the government no matter what it is. And so you probably find those people because, when you speak to the market women, when you speak to the taxi drivers, they think that the only people who are benefiting, or the only people who see optimism are the people who are in governance. When you talk to ordinary people, they definitely don't feel that way, based on some of the factors that have been enumerated, strikes by the pharmacy council, the local government, by doctors, by youth, by teachers. There has been a preponderance of those strikes when you look at it, and so there's a feeling of disaffection, and distrust. In the political scientists will call it a spiral of disaffection. That is where the people have a negative effect or feeling towards the government, because they think that the way the country is being run does not adduce to the interest of the ordinary citizen, but only those in power. And even those who benefit from it are those who are their clients. And so the politicians enlist the support of their clients in order to give them something. Okay, so their factions, their interest-based politics that goes on at a local government level, you go there and people will tell you what goes on over there, okay? And so people support the government with the hope that they will receive something in return. But what we want is for the country to be organized in such a way that there is a change not only in those in affairs, but then it trickles down to the grass. It is only then and then that people will stop being cynical. Until people feel that kind of change and people feel that way, the cynicism is going to continue. And that is why we need to change the mentality, the paradigm, the thinking process, and the way things are done in this country. And I think that is the missing.
One of the issues that came up is that as a people, we have a very, very short memory.
Right.
And I don't know how to frame it, but if it seems as if, but it's been a culture where, and I announced that I was one of the guilty parties. I asked my DC that, listen, I will get labor from the village to dig a hole from the river, because it's only 3 kilometers. I will get contributions to buy a pipe or to pipe the water. So you as the DC, you get a pump and a tank so that all the community can get water. In the end, we settled for a borehole, and we're thankful. We accept the smallest things. So, do we have a short memory, and are we justified or not justified?
No. I don't think we necessarily have a short memory, because we have to plan in the long term. When you look at Nkrumah and you look at all those leaders that we hail, Nkrumah had a 7-year development plan, positive action and so on. When Obama came into office, he had the AC, the Affordable Care Act. He had a broad-based policy. There was a cogent policy that the government had that they were going according to. And so when there was a crisis, the president came, was front and center. His political communication was top-notch, and he was a constant presence in order to communicate to the people. And look at the healthcare website that was launched, the crisis that came with it. But he continuously reassured them. They were called, those responsible for the website were called into Congress, and the legislators questioned them as to why the healthcare system was not being implemented the way it is. So I'm saying that part of it is an institutional thing, and it is a cultural thing. We have to be able to hold our government accountable. Not just are the parliamentarians doing their job? Are they able to call the ministers, the sector ministers in and question them on why things are not going right? Even the citizens themselves. I think we have a very politically docile community over here. Maybe it is because we are being we are cynics. Because when people are cynic, they draw back from the political process because they don't think that the process is going to benefit them, and so it leads to a certain level of political alienation and disaffection, which so it's a cycle, and so they don't participate in government, they're disaffected, and we don't have this.
Let me take that point from there and give it to Abu. Saying that we draw back from politics, I think it's a yes or no, where we are only involved in the politics up to the ballot box, and then we go to sleep. We don't follow on to demand that, listen, you asked or you said we should vote because of water. Now we need the water, or don't even come back to this town. But up onto the ballot box, we seem to be very active. We will queue up, fight, and guard the box. But after that, we go to sleep.
I think, first of all, let me react to a number of issues that my very good friend Doc has raised. And the last one, which is Ghanaians being politically docile, is something that I as an individual, disagree with. And it goes in line with your question, with reference to whether Ghanaians just go to the ballot box and beyond that, nothing happens. If you look at our electoral turnout, Ghana has always registered above 75, which is huge.
Very high.
It's very huge. Look at the media. Look at just go to the villages under trees. people are always talking about politics because politics is the pivotal point around which this country revolves around. Chieftaincy, religion. I mean, when it comes to even marriage, politics, it's within those spectrum. And the reason being that, I mean, we're a third world country. Everything dovetails from what? From the political hierarchy to what? To the ground. Beyond that, I think one of the things that we've always, or one of the people that we've always been referencing to is Obama in the United States. And I think that is one of the issues that the president was referring to. That when you are in Ghana, you hear people being what? Cynical. People being pessimistic about the developmental aspirations and trajectory of this country. But when you go outside Ghana and you talk to people, they see that this country is doing very well. The reality on the ground is that, look, if you take the United States and Obama as an individual and his governance system, if you go to the U.S., people are not satisfied about what is going on. And a clear issue in point is, what do they call it? The budget. The Republicans, if you come to the issue of healthcare that you made reference to, it took a huge political debate. Sure. It was a battle line between Republicans and Democrats. Mm-hmm. But you see, the whole issue about cynicism, I do not want to believe that when you do a serious scientific study of Ghanaians with reference to where we are going to, as to whether there's hope or not, even if most Ghanaians do agree to the fact that this country may not be moving forward or there's no hope in future, it's probably not because of the current administration, but it's because of the whole political system. In the sense that we've had politicians who have come to us to tell us they are going to give us A, B, C, D. Since 1992, what happens? They come, the ordinary teacher, the ordinary market woman, the ordinary assemblyman whom we knew, whom we used to drink palm wine with. He goes to parliament and the next thing is he's driving a V8. How do you expect the ordinary Ghanaian to be what? To be optimistic about this country? I've had people who have said that, look, this democracy that we claim we are practicing is not inuring to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. Mm-hmm. Because you come to me, you tell me I should vote for you, you are going to give me heaven. Then the next time, I realize that you are enriching yourself and your family. So I think there needs to be a fundamental reconceptualization of what is called democracy in this country. In the sense that, at the end of the day, if I vote for you, first of all, I need to look at you. Nana, you want to be a parliamentarian. Whom have you been before becoming a parliamentarian? What are you bringing on board? What are you bringing on board? You are a chief. What have you been able to do as a chief in your own small way?
It was a track record.
That is it. The track record. That should be the ultimate determinant of what? Of electing politicians.
Even if it's research.
Even if you are a
research.
teacher. A teacher. I'm an ordinary teacher like me. Mama, I'm in the teaching for 20, 30 years. I'm not able to publish even one peer-reviewed paper, and I want to be an MP. What kind of MP am I going to become? So at the end of the day, this whole thing that the president is talking about is very unfortunate that it's taking a political dimension, and probably because the way the president also presented it. If you present a statement in a way that has political undertone, definitely you should meet a political answer.
There's so many Facebook comments,
that is it.
I don't want to read it because it's it becomes personal.
I strongly believe that.
So keep your comments coming, and I think people go on to there and have a conversation on the Facebook. But it's not. I just don't read it because I just want to sit down for an hour bashing the president.
No. Let me give you a typical example. There was this guy who was Minister for Defense under Bush. He was the president of a university in Texas. He was under Bush. Then Obama came in and took him over. He stayed in and he told Obama that I want to leave. He told Obama, Gates told Obama, I want to leave because I want to go back to the classroom. Hillary Clinton, she came into power. She said she wants to leave because these are people who came to serve. Here in this country, you will get a minister under Kufuor. He comes under Mills. He wants to be under John Mahama, and maybe he wants to be an announced president. Because at the end of the day, we lack something. I don't know how to put it, but you see, I strongly believe that we need to change, and I agree with him when he says that we need to change the paradigm of what our political system. People need to serve, not to be served. When you have people who are serving, and when I say people who are serving, when it starts from the top, it trickles down to the ordinary teacher. If I see my politician serving me, definitely I want to serve my students. And my students will go and serve the peoples. That is how it's supposed to be. But when you have a system whereby everything, even if you need a certificate, birth certificate, you need to see a politician. We can't move forward as a country like that.
Do you think we've set our expectations too high, and that's how come we are getting disappointed too often? Or, I mean,
No, I don't think we've set our expectations too high. Actually, when it comes to this country, I think that we actually have there's a certain mediocre culture, within our system. We have the tendency to compare ourselves to Togo, to our neighbors, and say we are one of the best democracies in Africa, we are the shining star of Africa, and so when you compare yourselves to mediocre people, then it looks as if you are the best among them. So I really don't share that view that we have too much expectations of our politicians. I mean, Doc just said that he doesn't think we are docile, but then because there is a certain level of participation, of the citizens in the political process, So when you say, are we expecting too much? It is true that elections are the centerpiece of any democracy, and they are the pivot, around which democratic life is organized. And so it is important that people take part in those elections because they are going to entrust their lives into people who are going to take care of them for the next 4 years. The healthcare policies, the economics that they promulgate is going to affect their lives, it's going to affect the prices of goods and so on and so on. So I do agree that when it comes to elections and so on, we do so. But then I think that once the elections are over, I don't know what happens, Everybody just sits back, and then just expects that the government does everything. And that is the angle from which I'm coming from. We might be politically aware, politically conscious, politically sensitive, but then we are not as politically active as we should be in terms of holding the government accountable to what they promised us. How many Ghanaians write letters to the president? When you go to the United States, people in high school, people in college, constantly writing letters to the president. And the president is expected as a responsive president to respond to them. They have town hall meetings and so on and so forth. They call people, they subpoena people to the legislature. There is a constant back and forth, a culture of separation of powers, checks and balances, so that none of them feels as if they have extreme power over the other. Over here, we have a presidential form of government where there's an over-concentration of power in the presidency, in the executive branch of government. And so when you study local government, there has to be a devolution of power, decentralized to the local government level. It shouldn't be a vertical, a top-down approach. It has to be bottom-up, a vertical system instead of a horizontal system of organizing government, so that people participate. There has to be a realignment of the political system where people are able to participate directly in governance and have their views heard and taken care of. Otherwise, people are going to feel alienated.
Well, I have lots and lots and lots of messages here. Most of them are all, really gunning down at the president. Do this, do that, do this, do that. But when I come back from the break, you and I as citizens, what role do we play in this? Is it all on one man who wave his magic wand and the country will get better? Or you and I have a role to play, and what role should we play? Stay tuned. Hello, and the topic is Ghanaians cynical? That's what we are asking. And we've thrown all these ideas, and I want to ask my guest in the studio that we've been round this conversation, around this table for far too long, regardless of whichever government or political party is in power. There's always this feeling or despair. You promise that to reduce petrol and you increase it. You promise a tax cut and you reduce it. We've been around this table so many times. Can we change it, Abu? Can we change it?
First of all, I think, Nana, you did ask Osei about a question as to whether Ghanaians are asking too much. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important I respond to that in the sense that when you say too much, an ordinary Ghanaian, what is an ordinary Ghanaian looking for? Food, clothing, shelter. The ordinary Ghanaian is looking for what? Consistent and reliable electricity, reliable flowing water, and a job. These are things that even during, what do they call it, the times, not even in Nkrumah, the times of Moses, people were looking for food. When Jesus Christ was preaching, people wanted food. He turned manna into whatever it is. It's the nature of basic necessities of what? Of man. So it is important for every government to be able to provide those things. But you see, we have to posit the president's statement within the context of our discourse. Why am I saying this? If you remember very well, during the last times of President Kufuor, he made a statement to the fact that Ghanaians were lazy, if you remember. And probably he was saying it out of frustration. Because this is a guy who had done everything that he could within the circumstance that he finds himself. But still, people were complaining. Today, I think, and I strongly believe that we as a group of people, Ghanaians, should look at the president's statement, notwithstanding your political background, notwithstanding how you look at it. We should look at it from the perspective of what? We Ghanaians being what? Being positive-oriented minded people. In the sense that, look, at the end of the day, as I said, we as a group of people, look, whether you like it or not, I'll be sitting here with you. We'll be talking about what? A political party that probably will not be NDC. President Mama will come and stay, and he will leave. Another government will come, and that government will leave. But as Ghanaians, we are going to be here. And notwithstanding the political party that is in power, at the end of the day, our interest as Ghanaians is for that government to be able to do well. Because when the government does well, for me, it trickles down on what? On me as an individual, and it goes down to my children. That is why I think it's very important for the president not only to admonish Ghanaians not to be cynical, but he needs to preach optimism and also to work what? Towards the attainment of what? Optimism. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that the president will have to walk what? His talk. The president has always said that, look, I have made a number of promises, as I did do during my campaign, and I'm going to make sure that what? I fulfill those promises. Your Excellency, look, we are not going to wait till 2014. I want to see, 2016, I want to see some steps being taking place. And I'll always give him the benefit of the doubt, especially if you look at what we've gone through. But at the end of the day, I want to see some clear signs. Let's see what is going on. The president made reference to the fact that market fires have been stopped. He made reference to the fact that, what do they call it, electricity has been stabilized. I want to see the CD.
There's an 8% growth.
I want to see the CD being stabilized. I want to see the number of graduates who are getting employment. I want to see how we are working towards what? Mechanizing and what? And industrializing what? Agriculture. I want to see, the banking, everything. At the end of the day, we do know, and you agree with me, that the president will not be able to perform miracles within 4 years. But we need to see something. Something. So if Ghanaians are cynical, I think the president should more or less come to terms to the fact that, especially what has been going on.
What can we do to help, or so that we don't come around this table again? It might not even be President Mahama. It could be a different president, and we will still be talking about the same thing. Oh, you promised us this and you didn't give us. What can we do as a people to stop it?
Nana, it's a very important question, and I believe Dr. Ahmed had touched on this at some point in his reaction, and I'll just pick up from there. I think that we need to move away from the dependency culture, dependency theory, dependency culture. I still think we are still mad in that state, and be able to take hold of our destiny as a people. One of the things I learned, and you alluded to it, in the United States, in terms of serving rather than looking for bread baskets. This is a country where people are so proud of their country that the highest thing they could ever do, or the thing that they were proud of most, is what they could do for their country, if they could die for their country, not what they could gain from their country. It's the opposite here. When somebody gets a position, they want to milk the cow. It is their cocoa season. It's their advantage. And so if you don't do that, you're stupid. You are a fool. It is the opposite over there. The highest calling of any American is to be able to die for their country. They are so, in fact, they feel more proud when they are able to sacrifice for their country. So there's that culture of volunteering. We don't volunteer in this country. That culture of service, that innate desire to do something for their, and that is why they can decide to go to Iraq or Afghanistan and lay down their lives for their country, because to them, that is their badge of honor, the greatest honor, the greatest thing that they can do for their country. And so when you ask me that governments come and go and so on, what at all should we do? If you give me some time, I would suggest that there needs to be a cultural change, and a paradigm shift in our thinking process. There needs to be critical thinking, and I think that we need to go back to our culture, because when I did my research on why Obama won as against others. I told you that it was because he promised, or he presented to the American, a communitarian system of government where the country was a shared good. And so people believed, and that is in Ghana, the spirit of the community belonged to everybody. It was a shared good. And so everybody felt that they had a stake in it. When that happens, people will not think of milking the cow, they will think of serving or contributing because they believe it belongs to all of us. So that cultural shift has to take place in this country. There needs to be a values debate in this country, and we need to go back to our values in order to be able to capture the kind of society that we have always wanted for ourselves, in terms of we are people who come together, we are people who help each other, we are people who if you don't have salt, you go to the next door neighbor, he gives. We are people who love each other. And so we should go back to those fundamental values rather than always looking to Western and Eurocentric ways of organizing our society and base it on our own context.
You know, I'm picking on servitude and, you know, the American dying to serve and dying to serve. Does it get frustrating with us where, okay, fine, you know, doctor wants to be in the classroom and teach and get all these ministers out, and then 5 minutes later, you know, like you said, they turn up with a V8. So that makes you think, you know, why should I be serving when, you know, does it kill our serving spirit?
I think I was listening to Dr. Cynical, and I think if you summarize all what he's been saying, there's a lack of sense of patriotism. The ordinary Ghanaian does not see the country to be his own, as he sees himself as being part and parcel of it. In the sense that people feel more attached to their political parties, to their ethnic origin, tribal affiliation, and even to a reasonable extent to their religious indoctrination than being part and parcel of what this country called Ghana. Now, do just a non-scientific, unrefined research of how Ghanaians attach value to this country called Ghana, and you find out that it's reducing at a serious pace, because people have a feeling that this country is not there for them. And why is it that this country is not there for them? You can't go and hold something called Ghana. Ghana is you and me. Ghana manifests in the people who lead the country. So when there's no selflessness, when people are not ready to sacrifice, when people are always interested in their selfish, egoistic interests, then we find this same problem, and we'll come here again to discuss this topic. Why am I saying this? I quite remember not too long ago. You know, President Mandela died not too long ago. When we were looking and discussing Mandela, a sage, an icon of this stature, somebody who happens to be from Africa, for us to look at what Mandela preached, what were we doing in Ghana? We were comparing Mandela to Kwame Nkrumah. That was what we're doing. Comparing Mandela to Kwame Nkrumah. Trying to more or less get some kind of political, what do they call it?
Instead of learning.
Instead of learning from what Mandela stood for. Selflessness. Now, you agree with me that there's nobody who can doubt it, that Mandela as an individual does not have a family that he can say, look, this person, I have this kind of affection because he sacrificed. So if we as a people, we are not ready to sacrifice for this country called Ghana. And when we sacrifice for this country, and I started by indicating, there's no individual that you can go to and say, this is Ghana. Ghana is us. If I cannot be employed and come in to say that, look, I'm coming to embark on something called voluntarism, which he alluded to, then there's no way this country is going to move forward. If by virtue of the fact that I made a minister, an MP, and you, Nanada, you know me, and you say, look, you are a useless boy for not building a house after being an MP, then definitely we are not going to move forward. And that is why I started by indicating that, look, for people to be appointed into a position of service, be it a political position, you need to know what they've done for themselves. You need to know what they've done for themselves. If the person is a teacher, was he a good teacher? That needs to be questioned.
I have 1 minute. What do we do to hold these people accountable?
Well, so there's a lot of ways to go about it. First of all, in terms of
sum me up in a minute for me.
In a minute,
what do we do to hold them accountable?
Right. In terms of the civic process, I think that we must be more involved and we must be more active and participative in the political process. We can definitely go on demonstrations. We can vote with our legs. we can write letters to the president. We can write letters to our legislators when they come to our constituency. We can make our voice known to them. We can even decide to petition the government on certain things. And there has to be, a culture of research in this country. And we have to galvanize ourselves as grassroots in order to be able to take our concerns to the government. We go and knock on the doors of Parliament, petition Parliament. We go to the presidency. We do the same thing. And even when our parliamentarians come to the grassroots, we need to go and meet them when they come, instead of sitting back and expecting that they give us handouts and doing something for us. We need to be able to go there and take our concerns to them. I think that too many people have sat back from the political process, and I think that is probably why politicians have taken us for granted. And so people have to stop being cynical. People have to stop being alienated and participate actively in the government in order to make the government do what they expect of them, to create the society that we all hope for and cherish for in this country.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But I think all throughout, I think Dr. Kumbo has been my favorite politician in the last month. And he's been crying out, but somehow he's not getting any response. And he's saying...
Dr. Kumbo, is he the one who took it here on drill?
Yes. And he's saying that the amount of money they pay to get into political office, it is impossible for them to give 100%, because whether you like it or not, they need to pay that money. Yeah, they need to pay that money back. So you and I, when they are coming and we are taking the 5 cities, 2 cities, that's our roads and the hospitals and the schools that we are taking from them. But thank you very much, Dr. Godwin Echi Sekanku, and thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Jinapor. Beautiful discussion. I'm sure you formed your own opinions. Don't bash the president too much. That's why I couldn't read. Cut him a slack, man. Cut him a slack. Well, thank you very much. And as I said, tomorrow we'll be back. Actually, tomorrow we've been invited to the Distinguished Scholars of Africa. And so we'll be doing the show from there. We'll have a beautiful show. It's at the CSIR near Alliance and Leicester. Alliance Française. So between the hours of 9 and 2 p.m., if you're free, come and sit down and listen to some of great scholars give a lecture. Thank you very much. And as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.